Oh, Tuko Riadha, my friend, my dear friends, my global family, regional, national, maybe even family. What about welcoming you to this another episode, a series of those, right? The year is winding down. I hope you're not winding down, you're winding up. Thanks for being there. Thanks for your views, your comments, your thumbs up. I appreciate that. Keep liking them. Comments are always welcome. We live in a democratic, free world, in quotes, free, depending on where you are. It's very sad how we take for granted, or it's not sad, it's just kind of unfortunate how we take for granted freedom. And I don't think we truly appreciate freedom and the risk of freedom, because with freedom comes responsibility too, by the way. It's not just freedom for the sake of freedom, because it comes with some checkpoints. In my last thing, I don't know why when I start to speak, I get this. But anyway, in my last episode where I highlighted a life of a great young man, I kind of hinted to the mental health of athletes specifically. And of course, I'm not ignoring the recreational athletes, anybody. I think mental health is paramount. It should not be compromised or sold to the capitalistic world or performance stages that we think because we see somebody performing or they're doing excellent work, we assume they are whole. We assume they are all together. We find out different things about these great people we've seen in life that it's not all that we see. People don't know how to diagnose themselves, if at all they do, their mental health. I could be dealing with that as I speak to you guys without you guys knowing. And so sometimes we seek professional help, which is encouraged. And sometimes, even in this banter of sharing these talking points, you discover that our mental health has been compromised. Our mental health has been clouded. It's been jammed. And sometimes it takes a lot of work to unlock that. I hope we are all making an effort as a people. I was speaking to my wife and I were having a communication uh, sphere with a friend over the phone. And we sense that what we see as athletes in their performance does not tell us the whole story. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is that I found an article that I wanted to share with you guys, a short episode, I hope, where, you've noticed our focus on Kenya a lot. And I think the reason why I do that is because the Western world sometimes ignore that part of the world. Maybe the only time we get our cameras, our CNN, and the channels that are big is when they are doing either great or they are doing horrible. So it depends. If they are breaking world records, they are winning cameras on Kenyans. The question is, when there's no camera and limelight, what is happening to Kenyan athletes? And this is where I start my series today. I read an article that talks of very sad situations. I alluded to that even my last episode, but this one almost captures where I think most of the Kenyan athletes are when they've been they've been banned. The article says that I'm talking of doping. The article is entitled "Banned Kenyan Athletes Suffer from Depression and Suicidal Thoughts." The statistics are they're very grim, to say the least. This study was done by a college, and some people are very professional in this field. They say 7 out of 10 Kenyan athletes interviewed reported experiencing suicidal thoughts after being sanctioned, according to the new study. This study seems to have really taken time, and I'm going to just read a little bit of what they say here. That a new study reveals troubling mental health ramifications for Kenyan runners facing bans from the sport. Amid a major doping crisis that's plagued the East African nation for decades, the research shows devastating consequences for athletes who test positive for prohibited substances. And I think this research was done by Brian Juma and John Wolf. They are based in Emporia State University and Illinois Urban Campaign, who interviewed about 10 track and field athletes who are currently serving or serving sanctions and 3 anti-doping officials. So these are broad research, and I was gonna just maybe read a few things here that is quite revealing to me. It kind of exposes the dark side of being banned, and I think the other thing that I don't know this research that was shame. When you fall out as a person who cheated, you're out of favor. I imagine people like Ruth Chemgetich, was very hard on when she got tested for doping after the Chicago Marathon. She's not the only one. We have many, many names out there. And I think shame and guilt, if at all some people have that, takes a lot of, you know, soul searching to come to a point where we say, you know what, I did this. And some have admitted to have been tempted and they fell for that. And I think, and this is the research, the article continues to say that, what does it say there? So the article talks about the athlete's experiences reflect a significant psychological trauma with little support to help them cope. For example, when each athlete, let me see this article in a better sense. My phone is coming up with a pop stuff. The article continues to say that because of, for example, when each athlete learned they tested positive for a prohibited substance, they say they felt shocked, lost, and overwhelmed. There's a quote here that says, I did not know where to start, who to talk to, where to go, or how to handle my case. I was one of the most confused people, one athlete recalls. The article continues to say this, that the researchers noted the confusion exposed gaps in anti-doping knowledge even among international competitors and those at the Athletic Integrity Unit, or ADAC, which is a Kenyan one, Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, registers testing pools, with one athlete failing to request a therapeutic use exemption, being notified of the positive test and continuing to train while assuming they would eventually be acquitted after providing an explanation by declaring their prescription medication. The complexity of this thing, I think, is very hard for people in that part of the world. I don't think we are just getting a glimpse of this. I think for me, the sense that you've fallen into a dark place, because think about it, you're earning a lot of money in Europe, you are running around the globe, you are winning, and then this comes to hit you. Whether you are knowledgeable or not, this becomes a reality for those who have been found to have used illegal substance within the athletic framework of competition. And I think for me, this is where I think help, care, facilities that can help these athletes should be in place is lacking. And I think this article seems to expose that. So it continues about coping strategies, which I don't know how these athletes cope. And by the way, it's not a matter of, I think one of the things we do with people who are celebrities or athletes who have earned money is we think they have everything together. That's what I talked about in the beginning. That once you've been shamed, you've been exposed to be have cheated, you become a villain. You become untouchable. You become almost like you get stigmatized. People cast you out. You just go in the wilderness and rot. Nobody wants to hear from you. Yet when you are winning, I suspect in Kenya, people are coming knocking and says, I need help. My child wants to go to school. I need some school fees. My neighbor is sick. My mom is sick because you got money in Chicago. Can you help me out? But once that avenue has been shut down because you've been caught, using dope or doping in athletics, people shun you like leprosy. That's what happens. People don't want to talk about you as a human being. They don't even see you as a human being. You become a villain. And these coping strategies here being, I'm reading from this article. Let me see what they say. Researchers wrote the bans were distressing for every athlete with for every athlete, with many experiencing shame, which I've alluded to, embarrassment, fearing they will be viewed as a deliberate cheaters. I felt like this is a quote from one of the athletes. I felt like I was an embarrassment to society. I was a disappointment to my family, one athlete said. I think I was talking. And this, I think like I've talked about many times on this platform, we, our grace, our love banks are bankrupt. I think we dehumanize people very quickly. I've done this too, even here, I have to confess. When Ruth, I remember putting a thumbnail on one of my posts here. Of course, I'm almost looking for, maybe traction, audience. When you put something, a headline that just say shame, 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 you think in the shaming you get views. But sometimes I need to be aware of the humanity. Where is Ruth Chemgetich? Where are those who've been put them in the hall of shame? Were they knowingly doing this? Have I knowingly done something? Just because I haven't been caught doesn't mean it's right. And I think it's a reminder. And I'll just continue with the article here that this article says another athlete admitted to using alcohol as a way to cope. Let me tell you something, my friend. I think it was Kibet, an 800-meter runner, junior guy, I think early this year or last year, who succumbed to alcohol as a coping mechanisms. And I think he died because of, or he committed suicide. Either way, his alcohol is a go-to drug for many athletes in Kenya. Richard Chelimo, I talked to about yesterday after the Barcelona and his life. He just went to the bottle. He pacified himself. He comforted himself. He escaped from the misery of not being the champion that he thought he was. I suspect these athletes too is like, you know what? I can't make money. I can't make a living, but I can buy alcohol. Here we go. He said that I stayed home. I stayed alone. I did not want anybody in the house. Wow. I was just staying alone, drinking, and then trying to figure out things, they said. Wow. Many athletes suffer from anxiety about their future and their ability to financially support themselves and their families during the sanctions. Some even experience physical manifestations of stress, with one athlete reporting they developed ulcers and needed to go to the hospital. Because mental health remains stigmatized in Kenyan society, as one athlete noted, quote, when I'm stressed, people think I'm joking. Hello, goodness me. While explaining how cultural attitudes discourage people from seeking psychiatric help, many of the athletes interviewed also experienced a lack of social support at their lowest point. What an interesting here. Quote, this is an athlete speaking here. Athletes struggle with with being sanctioned, and for some, this distress escalated into darker thoughts, highlighting the serious mental health consequences of being sanctioned. The researchers noted. So this article, of course, keeps talking about this, which is kind of very sad. Are these the consequences of the global sanctioning body? Do they even, after you sanction somebody, do you follow up, or that's a punishment? It's like going to prison. Lock them up and forget about them and throw away the key. That is almost the prison system for athletes because of having broken the rules within the athletic fraternity or the athletic world. Is that the prison system of sanctioning them and banning them? Because when you think about what I've just read, it looks like a prison to me. And if it's a prison system, if it's bad in America, it's worse in Kenya. I'm just giving you a hint. The article continues, of the 10 athletes interviewed, 7 reported experiencing suicidal thoughts after being sanctioned. One of the athletes, quote, "I remember thinking, why don't I just die? I even contemplated throwing myself from the top of the building and letting everything come to an end," one athlete said. Um, wow. Here is a sad one for me. After an extended period of isolation, one of the athletes tried to commit suicide in the third month of serving their ban. Her neighbors and friends intervened, and she was able to enter a mental health clinic for several weeks. Wow. I don't know whether I'll continue, but maybe I'll share this article for you guys to read by yourself. But to me, this was it's very sad. It's very sad. And I think we live in an age whereby either you're canceling somebody, you're banning them from your platform, isolating them, stigmatizing them because, well, they've cheated. Now they are nobodies. This isolation, the social isolation here is the last time maybe I read for you guys a little bit of it. In interviews, many athletes say they felt stigmatized, marginalized within their community, an effect that extended to their immediate and extended family as well, with their reputation permanently damaged. Some say they were mocked with nicknames tied to the substance for which they tested positive, a form of harassment which becomes amplified in social media. Maybe I need to be more aware when I talk of doping. Sometimes I feel arrogant. I feel I call my sometimes when you think about these things, you feel like what I call the tyranny of the righteous. You know, the righteous can be very tyrannical. They're very judgmental. I think we need to be self-aware when we talk about people. If it has a face, it has value. If it has a soul, it's a sanctuary. Oh, I like that one. If it has a soul, it's a sanctuary. Can I repeat that? You can use it anywhere you want. Um, this is one I'll read. I think this article is captivating to me. I don't want to just give you guys a snapshot. One of the most troubling findings from the study was athletes sharing how their sanctions often cause strain between immediate and extended families members, many which depend on their financial support from the athlete. Several athletes know that the spousal separation, divorce, are a common after an athlete is sanctioned. Facing immense shame, one athlete started to abuse alcohol, his wife and children, except one son who stayed to care for him. Left their shared home for a period of time. He said his son ultimately helped him recognize the effects of his actions on the family. And that's a good one. Oftentimes, the athlete's children also face public shame in the community with classmates and friends associating them with their parents. Wow, this is very heavy. I think I'll just maybe stick the article there at the bottom. Let me see the end. The end here, I think the researchers or this article sums up by saying, reflecting on the interviews with athletes and anti-doping officials, the researchers emphasized the need for policies that provide mental health services to help athletes facing bans. They also call on the sports organization to prioritize the athletes' families and aid in the athletes' reintegration or separation from track and field, which would help mitigate unnecessary harm, the article wrote. He concludes by saying such support will help sanctioned athletes rebuild their lives and contribute positively to society. That's very sobering. I think if we are not in the business of building and being our brothers, sisters keeper, or any human keeper, I think we've lost our ways, even if they're athletes. Just because they won gold medal, they won a lot of money, does not negate, does not take away from their humanity. Just because they were sanctioned, banned for a substance. I think I was reminded today again by a friend of something I talked about, Shakira Richardson. Just because she acted unruly at the airport does not take away from her humanity. We need to keep ourselves reminded daily that our humanity, our souls, our value is not grounded, does not depend on our performance. It is the fact that we are human beings And this article just kind of made me sober up and realize that a crime, being found guilty of something, doing something wrong, making a mistake, and being seen as a human being takes a lot of self-awareness. And I think I'll end with that. Thank you, guys. I'll post the article at the bottom, and if you want to read the rest of it, it's a research done by great people. I think Kenyans athletes deserve that. I think it's a jungle out there for most of them. Is and for these athletes who are falling out of grace in Kenya, and they've only been seen as conveyors of dollars from abroad, and now those conveyor belts have been broken because of their mistakes. They are shamed. They are looked down as. They are cast out. They are nicknamed. They are social media goes out seeking their blood and their decapitations. Sad. Talk to you later, my friend. With Tiav's soul, the sanctuary, I'll end on that.